Hey everyone, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Parallel Magic, the science fiction and fantasy book show. I'm Kate M. Colby, joined as always by my friend and co host, Jonas Lee. How's it going today, Jonas?
It is going well. It's funny. I feel like we just gone through one of these intros before,
It does feel
right?
like that, doesn't it?
It does. For those of you who are listening to this for the first time, Kate and I actually just got off of recording before this, but this special edition requires something new because we are going to be going of movie versus book because Kate actually was able to watch the new Wrinkle in Time movie. And since we just did Wrinkle in Time not too long ago, that's where this bonus episode comes from. So we have to get into one thing because we are still drinking buddies. Now, what is it that you're drinking now?
Okay. So, as Jonas said, we had recorded another episode, and during that one, I was drinking a glass of Chardonnay, and I had almost finished it. There was just a little splash left, and my wonderful, sweet husband asked me if I would like a refill. And, of course I said yes. I mean, who turns down more wine?
Nobody.
And he brings in a bottle and pours in the glass, and what do you know? It's Cabernet. So, for those of you who are totally wine illiterate, no judgment, I was drinking a white wine and he poured a red wine on top of it. So, it tastes a little funny, but the Cabernet is dominating, and I'm just going to power through it because you don't waste wine.
You don't. And it's not like you have a pink wine now, right? It's just
No,
two
it's
weird wines together.
it's quite red. You
It's quite red.
you really can't tell that the Chardonnay's in there too much, except it's like a little weaker than a Cabernet would normally taste.
A little bit, yeah. Well, this is going to be good because I think if anybody turns into bonus episodes, we're basically going to get Kate to the brink of drunk. So her reviews of things are only going to get better. But
I fully consent to this plan.
that's a great plan, I think. So this episode is going to be Wrinkle in Time movie versus Wrinkle in Time book. If you've gone through our version of Wrinkle in Time, the book, now we're going to figure out, because I'm going to be actually interviewing Kate on this because I didn't go see it. I was very hesitant to see this movie. There was just something about it. It's like my spidey sense was tingling and saying, "Don't waste money on this." But
Well, here's the
luckily,
thing. You
what's
you have the risk of ruining your childhood nostalgia,
true?
whereas I do not. I read the book as an adult, so it did not have the same magic for me. So it's okay. Like, I'm perfectly happy to volunteer as tribute.
Volunteers tribute, absolutely. Yeah, let's keep my childhood intact as much as possible. I'm all for that. So, you got to go see this. Now, anybody who doesn't know about the Wrinkle in Time movie, it's mainly you'd think it stars Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling. Those of you who don't know her, she's from, I think, The Office and The Mindy Project, of course. And the lead character in the book is played by a young lady named Storm Reed. Um, and the other people in this movie kind of start falling by the wayside, minus Zach Galifianakis and Michael Pena. But that part aside, now that you might have a somewhat idea of what the characters are, tell me what were some of the major differences between movie versus book?
Okay. Before I get into this, are we just going to assume that everyone listening has read the book?
I'm sorry, I should probably preface this. If you have not read the book, if you have not watched the movie, if you want to do either of those and you don't want to know the comparison of them, by all means, put this on pause, keep it on the back burner, go do one or the other. Or if you don't really care and you just kind of want to know if this movie is worth your time or not, then just keep on listening because that's what basically I'm doing. I'll watch a movie no matter what I know the outcome of, but this is just for my sick purposes of knowing, is my childhood in danger?
Okay,
So
fair enough. I just wanted to make sure everyone was properly warned so we didn't
proper
have
warning out there.
anybody shocked or upset.
Absolutely.
All right, so the main differences. Um, from a character perspective, Meg and Charles Wallace's twin brothers don't exist.
Oh,
Which,
well, that's great.
in one hand, I was kind of okay with that because they didn't do too much in the book. They didn't go on the adventure. They mentioned, like, that they were the normal ones to kind of provide a foil for Meg and Charles Wallace, but I was okay with them being gone. Another big difference, Charles Wallace is adopted.
Oh,
Which,
well, ain't that something?
yeah, I mean, it doesn't change the story too much functionally, but it makes for a nice, diverse, blended family, alternative family, so I thought it was sweet that they were just showing a different perspective. If I had to be sinister and guess, my kind of feeling is that maybe the actor they chose didn't make sense as being a biological part of that family, so they made him adopted because the actor was fantastic. So
Okay.
that's my
'Cause
sinister Hollywood-minded guess.
yeah, sinister mind and plotting. So the characters basically are kind of shaken up a little bit.
A little bit, but that's other than that. We have a couple characters that are different genders, but it doesn't. The medium is
Oh,
Zach Galifianakis instead of the mystical woman from the cave.
right.
The plot pretty much functions the same way. All the same major plot points from the story are there. The only thing they take out is Meg and Charles Wallace and her father don't go to the planet where Aunt Beast is without sight.
Oh, yeah.
They do a montage of the different worlds when they're introducing the children to this concept, and you see the beast creatures, so there's kind of like a little homage to them there, but they just skip that
Oh,
planet
yeah. Let's
entirely.
keep going.
Yeah, like when the father and Calvin. Oh yeah, it's not Charles Wallace who's on that planet with them. It's Calvin. When the
Yeah.
father and Calvin tesseract away from it, they just leave and go to Earth, and Meg chooses to stay there to try to save Charles Wallace.
Okay, so that whole kind of reflective thing that Aunt Beast was doing in the books kind of gets lumped into this, I don't know, background knowledge of like I'm gonna go save something.
Yeah, they don't do that. There's not that like pause for Meg to
Hmm.
like really grow on that planet, but they kind of keep her growing at a steadier rate throughout the movie. So I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I was a little disappointed because I really love that scene. And like
Yeah.
I think that's very touching and I really liked Aunt Beast as a character, but it's not there and it's not necessary. So,
Ultimately, yeah.
yeah.
I think it was a good thing for the book. But I mean, I always approach movies with that same hesitance of they've got to cut a lot out. I mean, if you try and put everything into a book, you're gonna have a 5 6 hour long movie at least. So I mean, you gotta figure out what works, what doesn't work, what's not necessary, and what's visually acceptable.
Exactly.
Essentially, those are the things. So with that, was there anything else as far as like major, like, oh God, what the hell happened there?
Um, Not really. I mean, it
No?
stays thematically, it stays really true. The evil force at the end, instead of just being a literal brain on an ottoman, it's like this. They basically go inside of it. It's like this dark black kind of like a bunch of tree branches is kind of what it looks like. It's huge, and Charles Wallace and Meg face off inside of this like tree branch storm cloud thing,
Hmm.
and it looks very sinister, and so it feels creepy and whatever. I mean, I think some of the special effects looked kind of fakey,
Yeah.
but I imagine if you're a kid watching it, you don't like see that as much because you're wrapped up in the story and the ambiance.
Gotcha. So I know in the books, Meg is kind of the whiny, mopey kind of. We know she's supposed to be the protagonist, but you kind of hate her. So how did that reflect into the actual character in the movie?
she's still really whiny.
Oh, well, at least they stayed true to that, I guess.
They did. I mean, she really, she's this insecure, roughly 14-year-old girl, and she's all angsty because her dad left, which, perfectly valid reason. And she is whiny. She resists the three misses the whole way. But there are some redeeming things that I think they actually did slightly better with her character in the movie. So, at every step of the journey, Meg actively chose to participate. So, instead of just getting pulled away by Charles Wallace and Mrs. Whatsit, they ask her, like, do you want to come? And she says yes. And then later, when her father and Calvin tesseract away from it, she chooses to stay behind and help Charles Wallace. So they make her a much more active character. And then, like, this is a very personal thing to me, but if you listen to our episode on A Wrinkle in Time, the book, you know that I wasn't really a huge fan of Meg. Right. But Mrs. Whatsit, who's played by Reese Witherspoon, who just happens to be one of my favorite actresses, she just drags Meg's character the whole time, and it's effing hilarious. At every point in the movie where Meg is whiny, Reese Witherspoon comes in and is like, Charles Wallace, I don't get what you see in her. Like, God, she's so narrow-minded. She's so, like, blah, blah, blah. And just, like, drags her character. And it's great. Because it gives the comedic relief. And she's actually, like, probably the biggest source of comedy throughout the movie. But, for people like me who don't like Meg, at least not at first, it's like, okay, good. I'm not the only one who thinks she's being a brat. Like, Mrs. Whatsit agrees.
Right. So you have somebody in your corner then.
Yeah.
Well, good. And one of the things I was afraid of, because by the previews, it makes it seem to anybody who hasn't read the book that this book is all about Mrs. Which, Mrs. Whatsit, and Mrs. Who, because those are three big name actresses all together. And you just say the one word Oprah, and you're like, oh my God, an Oprah movie. I'm going to go see it. And I'm sure that was like a marketing plotting point, but I'm glad that it at least stayed true more towards the story, even if there were tiny little changes in there.
Yeah, I think Reese Witherspoon definitely dominates comedically, and she's featured the most out of the three misses. Oprah is featured the least, which is consistent with her character in the book. But what's funny is because her character has a harder time materializing, they've basically always made Oprah this, like, literally larger than life vision. So you can kind of tell that she, like, was never with the rest of the cast when she shot, because it was, like, all green screen
shot in Oprah's house.
All CGI Oprah. But yeah, they definitely do not dominate the movie. Like, they are there as supporting characters, and you don't actually learn what they are. They're just kind of taken as, like, otherworldly, alien spirit guides. But it works. I mean, they serve their purpose as mentors, and they don't dominate or steal anything from the children.
Good. I mean, so overall, if you had to give this a shot rating, 1 to 10 for the movie itself, I know movies are going to have like a completely different rubric than what books do, but if you had to go through it like you were grading a movie instead of a book, what would you give this?
I'm trying to think about what I gave the book. I think I gave the book a 7.
I think so.
And I think I would give the movie a 7 because I kind of felt the same way about it. Like, it's a very beautiful, imaginative journey, but yet the CGI just doesn't look quite right in places.
Little off kilter.
Yeah, so it's like pro con, and then, I think they make some good changes with Meg in that she is more active, a little less annoying. And then, but at the same time, there are other characters that they don't do any service to. Like Calvin, still pointless.
Oh, good.
Like, it's nice that he's there as a love interest and a supportive friend, but like, really, he didn't have to be there. You know, Charles Wallace is equally genius and charming. The mom and the dad are pretty much given about the same amount of character development. And then the plot, like I said, the plot's basically the same, just without that one planetary pit stop. So
Gotcha.
overall, I think it's a pretty fair representation of the book. The acting is pretty good, but the effects are kind of,
Hokey.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not a special effects expert, but they just didn't always feel right to me. And there are some moments that are like kind of cheesy and cringy where it's like, you guys think this is spectacular and touching, but really it's just kind of weird.
You're just
So,
making this weird.
yeah. So I think,
So,
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, so if I had to put this into categories of, I would pay full price at the movie theater, I would wait for a matinee show, I would wait for a discount theater, I would wait to, down the echelon of like, would I buy this at Redbox or would I just wait and maybe if it's on Netflix, then I'll watch it. Where would you kind of scale people towards if you're giving your expert opinion on it?
I would steer you towards Netflix.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think, if you're a big fan of the book and you really want to see it because you love the book and you have to know how it compares, then sure, go to a discount matinee, grab it on Redbox. Or, like, if you have kids, again, it's really hard to imagine these things from the perspective of a child. But I think kids will be really taken in by it and, like, not see some of the faults that we see in the characters and, like, the special effects and stuff. So for them, it would probably still be worth going to the theater, as a nice family outing. But yeah, if you're a 20, 30 something who loved this book as a kid and, are kind of worried that Disney's ruined it, I'd just wait for Netflix.
Okay, I will definitely take that in consideration. I will probably just wait for Netflix myself. Um, but I'm very thankful that you went out there in our stead so that I didn't have to waste money or time.
That that's okay. My husband and I are big moviegoers. It's like our go-to favorite date night, so we are more than happy to, like I said, volunteer as tribute.
Volunteers tribute. Good. Well, that's all I can think of for questions. And I mean, the same thing I think goes for movies as I try and preach for books. Movies still want reviews, whether they're indie or big name or anything like that. Myself, I use it's an app called Letterboxd. It's kind of like the Goodreads for movies, essentially. So you can leave reviews, you can find other people out there. It's a big social thing, but I try and categorize all my stuff out there as well. So if you do something like that, perfect. If you just do word of mouth, still perfect. Reviews count. But next time we'll actually try and sneak in Ready Player One since we have reviewed that book and since the movie is coming out, or by the time you hear this, will be out, and we'll try and tackle it that way. But did you have anything else before I talk over you?
I don't think so. I mean, like I said, it's pretty true to the book, and in the end, you guys have to make up your minds for yourself. So, I am unfortunately not the authority on
Not the
everything.
authority. And hopefully I will get to go out and see Ready Player One so we can have kind of a back and forth on this. I know this was kind of one-sided, but I appreciate it. So
Yeah, happy to drink wine and wax poetically.
exactly. So I will raise the same cup and same salute and say cheers to you.
Cheers.